Okay, there we are. We are live. So, what I really like about this StreamYard app that I signed up for after show number one with Orion was learning to do things more on the professional level, but more so having that studio green room with your guest where you get to shoot the breeze, get caught up on stuff because, well, I mean, other than Roger Casanova, the people that I've had on the show so far, people that I haven't seen or spoken to in a really long time. But why I made myself a list of people that I would, be honored to have on the show, like yourself, Sylvain, is because of certain DNA that people have or certain experiences that I've had along the way, even if it's over 20 years ago. So for those of you guys watching, just always to frame the show, On the Cusp, the nudge you've been dying for, is really ultimately just reducing the human condition into its smaller parts, smaller components, and taking a look at why we make a straight line crooked, right? Why we trip over ourselves, fear, the insecurities, and why we reach and shrink away from the things that truly would make us happy and make us whole. And I think there's going to be a large part of the conversation with Sylvain here on the show around some of these things. And ultimately walking away with tools and fuel. What I mean by tools is, from my own experiences, and Sylvain will probably provide his own perspectives, is oftentimes I just didn't know how. I didn't know how to approach something, or at least to get it started. Or I would start down a path and then I would realize these things aren't working. So I just go, see, it's not meant to be, and just give up and turtle, and then that's it. And, be done with that project and constantly move on to other distractions. So always working on the better version of ourselves is the idea here. Real talk, real people, two guys sitting on a park bench, and hopefully the viewing audience, if you're watching, you have the opportunity to throw a question up there. Get the question, we'll post it on the screen. This is Sylvain's show. And how do I know Mr. Bourgon? So we were chatting and catching up before coming on, and I was like, "Hey, do you remember how we met?" And he's like, man, yeah, I think so." And I said, "Yeah, I met you through, a mutual friend from high school. This is going back like 25 years ago, plus easy." And see that I belonged to a Mustang club, and he had his Mustang, and I was a big fan of the Mustangs. I didn't have one, but my buddy did. And I remember meeting Sylvain because my buddy Dave brought him out. We were a group of guys, and I didn't say this to Sylvain in the green room because I want things to be in the moment too as well. Was when I met Sylvain and he came into the bar and it was introduced. First of all, I said, "Well, there's a handsome devil." I mean, you have to recognize that. That's a fact. But you also had this presence about you, this energy about you that was larger than life. And I connect quickly to people like that. It's not, you meet somebody and then it's like, okay, great. And then you move on, but you're like, here's a person I think who's going to do some pretty significant things with their life. And I don't think I'm too far off the mark. And connecting to somebody who has the same DNA, cut of the same cloth, and hence why I was thrilled that you wanted to do this with me. So just to kind of get the audience going, Sylvain, maybe you want to share a little bit about yourself, some background, and then we can just naturally move into some of the themes you picked for our viewing audience today.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, it's, everybody has a story, and mine kind of started, living in the rough neighborhoods and living on the system kind of thing. And moved around quite a bit as a child. Probably every year to 2 years, we would jump around, and then finally, when getting close to high school, I meet this girl, Cindy. She's 14, I'm 15. She's not even in high school yet. We meet at a dance, and sometimes you meet people and they kind of change you, right? And they send you vibes that you really latch onto. So I met her, and then my mom. Then we moved away. We moved almost an hour and a half away from the city, and my mom was like, "Yeah, you're going to this new school." I'm 15 years old, and I don't think so. I think this is time for me to make my own life, and so I got on my little bike and my BMX, biked from there to Ottawa. Lived on the streets, lived in backyards. Did what I had to do to finally get student welfare. Back then was I don't know if it still exists or not, but they I had to fight tooth and nail with them to try to get me to help, because 15 years old, not a lot of people wanted to hire me. I was a street bum. Um, but yeah, so then they helped me. I got my first little 1-bedroom rental, and then next thing you know, I'm going through school, and that was one of my first goals. Was I had to graduate school. I thought that if you graduated school, it just opened up that many more doors for you, and then just things snowballed. It just kept adding goals, and to the point now, I'm married almost 30 years. I've been with her since we're 15 and 14, 2 wonderful kids, and trying to live my best life now. Yeah.
Wow. Great opener. Some things, and for me, for the viewing audience, I mean, Sylvain's going to be sharing some stuff here with me that I actually don't know until the moment that he tells me. And this is what this show is really all about. You're talking about early on in life, living survival, really, right? I think we're going to touch on that word in great detail on this show. And you also wanted to reach out and get the help that you needed to be able to prop yourself up, to be able to succeed, right? Which is finding a means to get the schooling you needed and to graduate. But what I find in what you just shared most awesome, just absolutely awesome, is how long you've been with Cindy. That's just unheard of.
Yeah.
Like, let's be real here. That is just so unheard of. That 14, 15 years old,
yeah,
and that many years later. So that's beautiful in itself, and I think that's something to be cherished for sure. So you said something about a good, she's giving you good vibes. Maybe can you be more specific about what she was imparting on you that maybe you were missing in your life that kind of pulled you up?
It's and these are things I learned up until like last night. I'm constantly learning things about myself, learning how to accept certain things and whatnot. But Cindy is a open, loving person, right? So she right away, was showing me what love is real, when it's real, and or what I believed was to be real. So you kind of see it from a different angle, and then you're like, wow, this is like amazing, right? Because this is what everybody wants, I believe, is we all need to be loved. And so when you actually get that strong feeling, it's easy to latch onto. But not just that, then she's also the person that is always covering your back. She's standing strong when we fall, right? Well, I fall. I shouldn't say we, but I fall, and I fall often. And so that person is there to kind of help, not even pick you up, but just kind of sit there with you and say, hey, it's don't worry, we're fine. Tomorrow's another day, and let's do that. So it's and that was something I didn't grow up around. And I would see it from afar, like, go to a friend's house after school, and you kind of, and it's like watching TV. You're because you're scanning, you're trying to learn behaviors that you think are normal, or you seem normal to you. And so you're like, oh, I think I want a bit of that in my life. Oh, I think I want a little bit of this in my life. So and then when you stumble across somebody that actually starts giving that to you, I think for me it was the start.
Wow. So I think there's some strong parallels in our lives, and just listening to childhood stuff, and I've got my stuff, and I don't know the extent of yours or mine, but it's similar. Started very young for me to have to look after myself, care for myself, and make sure that I had the basics in order to operate, right? And what I find amazing is the fact that you were open to that love that this person, that Cindy, was wanting and willing to give you, because you talk about looking for those examples. Same thing, we started young, it's like, oh, I know that feels better than what this is, and I want to latch onto that, and I need my mentors, and I need the people who provide me with examples in order for me to be, I don't know, more whole and more grounded and more successful as an individual. But I wasn't necessarily open to love. I wasn't
Yeah.
open to it because the way I was programmed or the way I felt about things is that people were going to be out there to hurt me, that I'm
Mhm.
going to give of myself and it's going to be taken advantage of. It's going to be taken for granted. So I applaud you, Sylvain, for
Mhm.
so young having that internal maturity to be open to that love,
Mhm.
that you could grow as an individual and with her. So really cool.
Yeah, I think it's when I said I was open, so something I've learned because I've made a lot of mistakes. You stumble constantly, right? So one of the things I come to realize was in my relationship is because I'm a very adventurous person and I'm not afraid to try new things or tackle new things. Um, with the love thing was I didn't realize this, but I was always just 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You
Mm.
know, having the fear of abandonment or whatnot, but you're if she leaves, I don't want to get too hurt. I want to, so I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna give my all, right? Whereas is for her, and this is what I've learned, just kept learning from her, was she's all in, right? So wow.
That's awesome, buddy. That's how it should. That's how it should feel. It's authentic, right? And it's something to learn from that too, you know. And we touched on it in the show before with Marco, and I asked the question. You know, you watch people, you know, being able to do that so selflessly, and you go, how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you do that without conditions? Without
Yeah.
conditions, because you said
Hmm.
it perfectly about having 1 foot in and 1 foot out, right? It's kind
Yeah.
of expect the worst, hope for the best, you know?
Yep.
And but that in itself is still, it's still what's the word I'm looking for? It's not all in. It's not fully surrendering is probably the best way, right? Surrendering to that that experience with that person, right? So
Hmm.
man, that's something else. I thank you for that. So you got some really good themes here today. So I thought probably be a pretty good segue. I'm curious on all of these. So you want to talk about natural drive and being born with it, and
Hmm.
coupling it to how not to run yourself crazy
Hmm.
in the pursuit of that, but more so learning to harness it. So I would love to, because I've fallen down quite a bit.
Mm. Yeah, again, it's stuff you learn over time, but it was, I believed in one of my therapy sessions with my life coach. At one point in my life, I believed I was an imposter because of what my past, who I was in my past, and who I was growing or becoming. And I thought, well, no, this is the fake me, and I don't want people to see the real me because they're not going to like that guy. So I've got to, we'll leave in the morning. I got to put my Superman suit on, and be the bull and go. I'd leave at 6 o'clock in the morning. Sometimes not get home till 10 o'clock at night. Just work, and that became me. I believed I became a workaholic. I took, which again, there's just so many spins off these things, right? But it's some people have told me, but you could have fallen deep into drugs and been addicted to drugs, where you became addicted to work, which then provided for your family, which then provided you to afford a better life. So there's a good side to it, of course, and until you start feeling that it's no longer a good side.
Right.
But but like I remember, I was I think I was 7 or 8 years old, and the drive-in at Britannia, I'd leave my house at about midnight, 12:30. Little not a wheelbarrow, but a little chariot, a little a buggy kind of thing. Walk to the drive-in, pick up all the empty beer bottles, pick up anything I could find that was worth money. The next day, I'd go sell it to a guy to be able to, buy some food, and then the next day, I'd go do cutting people's grass. I'm 8 years old. I'm cutting people's grass. I didn't have a lawnmower. I'd say, well, no, I'd normally charge 10. Well, I don't remember what it was back then. It was probably $2, but I'd say, I'd normally charge $5, but because my lawnmower is broke, I didn't have a lawnmower, but it's broke, but I'll cut it with yours for half price. You know, so but it was a hustle. It was constantly hustling,
Yeah.
to survive. It was, I mean, not that my mom didn't provide. She, because when we were really down and out, we'd eat at the soup kitchen. She would not be afraid to go to those places and whatnot. But I wanted what I saw other people had, and not that I was jealous of them or envious of them. It's just I just thought, wow, it'd be really nice to have a warm pair of boots like that, or to have a nice warm jacket instead of layering or whatnot. So I just started working very young and just started like hustling to make money, and that probably what kept me growing into, I remember in high school I was working about 2 or 3 jobs almost all the time, and even until the age of about 30 I had 3 companies on the go at one point, just running crazy every direction, not taking time, and funny story, I get home one day from work, and we got married in 1993, and I believe it was the year 2000 or 2002. I get home from work and there's luggage at the front door. Cindy's parents are there. We've got 2 little babies, and I'm thinking, nope, there it is. She's kicking me out. She can't handle this shit no more, right? I'm driving her nuts with my crazy schedule, and she's like, no, I booked a trip. She says, we haven't gone on a honeymoon. We haven't taken a vacation. We're going on a trip, and we're leaving tomorrow morning. My mom's going to babysit the kids. And I was like, oh my God, phew. Thought I was losing it all. And then next thing you know, we went on the trip. And then ever since then, you start to, again, by learning, right? Wow, this trip was amazing. What an experience. Oh, okay, next year, let's do it again. And then next year, let's do it again. And then again, got hooked on travel.
So would it be fair to say, just listening to what you have to say, so that natural drive, that natural born drive, stemmed from survival? Because I'm curious, because like yourself, I mean, I would have either, at least 2 jobs very early on. My first job in Ottawa at 15 years old, which was perfect, was a busboy at the Chimo Hotel, right? So I started being a busboy there at the Chimo, and it was perfect because I was in charge of putting together the buffet every Saturday and Sunday morning, but after I could eat whatever I wanted, prime rib, coconut cream pie, and it just filled the belly, right? So it was a means of survival and sustenance and feeding myself. So for me, that natural drive, it's kind of like, don't think, just do. We just do, automatically do, especially like your lawnmower story, which is, there it is. Smart guys, street smarts, right? I always say you can be academically inclined, but man, nothing beats street smarts. So would that be fair to say for you that natural drive came from that internal survival mode?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's I think when you're put in hard situations, there's and I might be wrong, but there's really 2 ways you can approach it. Is you can say, well, okay, I've got to learn from this and I've got to move up and forward, or you can play the victim and say, well, yeah, this is my life and I'm going to accept it and I'm just going to stay on the system and and not feel that you're or maybe that's the thing, is you don't feel you're capable of. Because again, we're all built different. We all have our own internal fears. But I think it depends on many things. Like I say, Cindy was a big help for me when I got to that level. But across the ways, I've met teachers, I've met individuals that have just they kind of give you that glimpse of light when they see that you probably need it, and then you're like, no, well, not me, because that's that's not for me. That's for the people that are educated or rich or however you want to say it. But and then they're like, no, I believe in you. And when people believe in you, when you don't believe in yourself, that again, right? That is it. And like I've actually about 5-6 years ago, 2 teachers that were actually married together. I had them in French and had them in science. And in school, like, they went out of their way they would actually, one time they called my mom and they said, we want to come to your house because we know Sylvain can do better in school. And so they really pushed me in high school, and they believed. And so I had to thank them for that, because they were part of them helping me believe in myself. Because when you come from an area or a lifestyle that is not always positive, you tend to think that you're on the other side, you're the victim, and
Right.
that's where you remain. So I've had, I'm very fortunate like that, to have a couple of teachers. I've had a few of my friends' parents give me a helping hand, like needed a place to stay. Well, you know what, you can stay here in the basement, till you find another job or whatever.
Well, what, man, wow. This so many things I want to say, but we only have a certain amount of time in the day. The things that you're sharing, you're touching on, and to kind of like O'Brien's, comment there. When people believe in you, when you don't believe in yourself, it is truly powerful. So that's perfectly said, O'Brien. And when people see that potential in you,
Mm-hmm.
and we talked about it in the green room around 20 years of me working with pro athletes and everything else, and I would extract and work to show them what they can do, and then when they achieve, they sit there and they go, I never thought I could. And I go, I always knew it was there. So the other side of that, a compliment to you, is you didn't squander it. I've worked with a lot of talented athletes that have squandered those opportunities just because they didn't want to see that potential in themselves, and they made a straight line for it, and they migrated away from that goal. I want to bring something back that you said that really stuck with me earlier in this show, when you said, I would put on my Superman suit, and I was like, I know what that's like. Yeah, your feet hit the floor, you shake off all the demons and the stuff that's troubling you, and you just go into go mode. But you also set that expectation. You also know the world out there seeing how you perform, at what level you perform at. So that's your personal brand. So, you're not allowed to have a bad day, because that's what people are expecting you. They're, super sly, right? So, and then you mentioned the, 3 jobs. Now, question, this is going to help me out. Okay. So the question is, did you keep yourself that busy with that many jobs outside of survival and providing and the means to doing that, as forms of distraction to not deal with the imposter that you thought you were? Were they just keeping that busy? Were they in a sense also distractions?
Yeah, guaranteed. It's they still today, I still struggle with going home, sitting down with my wife, watching TV, and being home at, like, I don't know, 6 o'clock at night, just and being home for the evening, not doing anything but just being there in the moment. I've always struggled with that, with being in the moment. I'm always thinking future, some a little bit of the past. That's one of the guys on your shoulder that's always knocking on the back door, trying to pull you back. But it's more the future and fear. And so there's a saying that I grew up with, was you're always one paycheck from coming back to welfare.
Right.
And so, I was going to guarantee that, when I saw what other families had, and I thought that's what I wanted for my family. I wanted to make sure my kids were, not that I wanted to spoil them and make life easy for them, but I wanted to just give them opportunities for them to become better people and to not fall back into positive, because sometimes you see that, whereas the father or the person comes out of a situation, but then one of the kids falls into that similar situation, and you're like, what did I do wrong? Or
Right.
Because we tend to blame ourselves all the time. So but yeah, so it's been the distractions are still there, because I have troubles accepting certain things, and speaking of coaches and life coaches, and I have a basket or a toolbox full of people that are my go-tos when I start feeling certain ways. And then again, when I was younger, probably the age up to about 35 maybe. I did therapy sessions, I did coaching, I did life coaching, and I thought, I like, you're making money, and I thought, well, this is the next step for me to learn what I don't know, because you don't know what you don't know. But sometimes you're not there, you're not at the right time to accept the coaching, right?
Right.
So I found as I was getting a little older, 40, 45, all of a sudden, I would go to these sessions, and it was aha moments. It was, wow, I've heard it before, but today, bam, I'm reeling it in. It's for me. And then you then move forward with that new tool in your tool chest.
Yeah.
Right. So it's having these bags of tools that can get you through. And I think, part of that is also people. People are, I don't want to say I'm using people as tools, but people, you have to circle yourself, or surround yourself with people that are either like-minded, or people that want to see you succeed like you want to see them succeed.
Yeah. And you speak to tools, which is perfect in what this show is ultimately about, right? Is, I've got a tickle trunk full of tools too. And there's been tools that just collected dust, whether it's reading books and workshops and self-help and people and mentors. And I like what you said, that, you heard it before, and then all of a sudden, maybe it's packaged just a little bit different, but the message is the same. And then you just all of a sudden have this awakening. But it's really just because you are ready to pick up that tool and apply it. That's really the message with this show is, oftentimes we may not have the tools, we seek them out, we have them, you're provided the tools, but you don't pick them up and apply them. And only until you're really, truly ready to do that. Now, you said something, and if potentially my wife's watching the show, she will agree and nod with this statement. And we're definitely the same DNA, is I'm not a great guy to relax with. I'm just not. I'm busy as F all the time. I'm a gearbox. This thing is just always going. I'll watch a show, and this is another good comment, and I'm ready to move on. I can't do more than one show. 2 shows is really pushing it. It's tying into the next question, is like, you touched on it, and therapy. I've been through therapy, mentors, and people. Is I've always struggled with being in the moment. And that was a powerful statement that you said. And, in when I think about it to myself, is I have moments of sadness, because I always thought there was something really ultimately broken in me. That how can I not get there? How can I not enjoy this moment like my wife does, or like my kids do, or like my friend does? And why is my mind so preoccupied? Why am I so fearful that I'm going to get blindsided by something, and somebody's going to come and tear me down and take everything I worked so hard for away from me? Because it'd be like, nobody's going to do that. So that protective mode. So I'm glad you brought that up, because that's been just an absolute eternal struggle for me. So other than trips and vacationing and your wife being smart, now my wife lives to travel, and it's great. I was a late bloomer when it came to travel. I got to see some really cool stuff, all because of her, thanks to her. If it wasn't for her, I probably still wouldn't travel, because it'd be like, I don't have time for that, because there's so many more important things to do, when really ultimately they're not important. So what other little tips and tricks that you do to harness that, and to keep you from, living in that crazy mode?
Ooh, I'm still learning that. That's a forever ongoing battle for me. I sleep probably about 4 hours to 5 hours a night. I'm not a good sleeper, and so my mind, like you're saying, right? My mind's always racing. And so I remember, like in one of my businesses, I would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd start blasting out emails to all the staff, for them when they showed up at work, to just have something in their box to start their day. And then I had a few of them sometimes reply like at 4:30 saying, what are you doing up at this time? Why are you emailing me at this time? Are you nuts? Like, I can't work for a guy like you. You're just crazy. And I was like, well, I didn't send it to you so you could look at it now. And I didn't even know you were up looking at your emails.
Yeah.
It's so it's just for me, it's on the brain. I have to get it out because the new stuff is constantly coming in, and saying, what's wrong with me. I was actually watching a short clip the other day of Elon Musk, and he felt he was different than everybody because he said like his brain was exploding with ideas all the time. And so it's, I think, I don't know what creates that. I'm not qualified to say that, but it's, all I can say is that it is part of the battle of trying to deal with it. And I think sometimes you get these little moments, and like for me, when I get to work, I work 7 days a week almost. So it's just work, and sometimes it's crazy hours, finishing at midnight. And then when I get to go away on these vacations, at first I would go take a 1 week vacation, and all I would do is sleep. It was just like, the candle was burnt, boom, collapse, sleep for the whole week, spend, get up with my wife, have breakfast, go to the beach. She loves the beach, so she'd sit at the beach. I'd go, I'm going to go take a nap, come back, wake up at 2 o'clock, go to supper, try to stay up till 8 or 9, and then sleep again, and it was just constant. Whereas now we're able to take longer vacations. It takes me about 2 weeks or so to really get unwound, and then wow, it's I can't explain it. It's because I haven't experienced this before, but you fresh ideas that are not ideas of survival. They're just ideas of things that, when you say, I don't know what I want to do with my life, kind of thing, right? Well, when you're in survival mode, you kind of look and you say, okay, well, I can make good money doing this. So this is what I'm going to do. And now you make good money at it, and then you get trapped in it. And then it doesn't mean you're happy, right? It just means that you're making money. So you're solving one of your fears.
Right.
And so, but when you get to take a bit more time off, you get to your brain, I guess, starts to relax. Maybe I don't know, but all of a sudden, I'm getting these ideas and these things that come to me, and it's incredible. And then also, I've done a pile of vacations since my first vacation with Cindy, and many of them, Cindy will say, "Oh my God, you remember we were on that beach? That guy, he was wearing a blue shirt. He had a ball cap on, and this and that." And I'm like, I remember flying there. And I remember the hotel room, I think, but no, and I'm amazed by her but she's in the moment, right?
Yeah.
She's there. She's very present. So with her, and when you're two people alike, sometimes it's hard, but when they're opposites, she's like pulls me in. She pulls me in, and then I can enjoy a little bit of what she's enjoying. And so I'm learning now to slowly get there, but it's a work in progress.
Yeah, and there it is, always under construction. Yeah, it's a similar experience in our household. That's why we decide to take when we take vacations, it's the 3 weeks, at least 3 weeks. Because
Nice.
like you, in order for me to air out,
Yeah.
I'm only airing out at about after week 2. So my last week of my vacation is when I'm like on and things are good and I'm more present. And to your comment about Cindy being able to recall these small details, Tanya will be the same about where we've eaten and what we've eaten, and I pride myself on having a great memory, and I do. Mine like a steel trap, but I guess for one of the things I care about or I take notice of.
Yeah.
And she'll be like, "Oh, you remember that restaurant that had this that really cool plant and the water?" I'm like, "Nope." Right. So it's good that at least together we can remember the trips and fill in the gaps together.
Yeah.
So you're providing a really good segue into your next theme. But before we go there, before we boldly go there, is would you say part of that natural drive, do you have a large desire to create, Sylvain?
Yeah, I mean, thinking way back when I used to be an artist, it was an escape for me. I used to draw. I remember drawing like Superman from comic books and ET, and so that was like an escape for me to do that kind of stuff. And until I kind of fell into a little bit of a trap where you like full survival mode, where now all of a sudden is no, it's make money. You got to eat. You have to you have to put a roof over your head. So I thought at one point I felt trapped at one point, because I always preached to my own kids of when they were growing up was, don't worry about the money. Find something that you love to do, and the money will eventually come when you become so good at it. And my kids, it's amazing to see them do that for themselves. And whereas what I felt for my own self was, I got out of the army. I joined the army first was I wanted to travel the world, and I thought that was a means that I could travel for free.
An entrepreneurial moment, Sly.
Yeah. And then it was when I got in there, I realized it was not for me. It was very constrained, very you couldn't. And maybe if I would have stayed in it longer and went up into higher spaces, but for me it was just very limiting, and it wouldn't allow me to do my own kind of thing. So I got out with a little bit of money from the army, and I went straight to college. And then I started working for I call him my uncle, but he's not my uncle. But I started working for him in the HVAC industry. And he was like one of the smartest guys in that industry. Phenomenal mind, right? Smart as a whip, fix anything and troubleshoot anything. So he was a great mentor. But like me, he or I like him because he was older. He worked all the time. So it was kind of like a step into wow, you just, the more you work, the more you learn, the better you'll become. And again, yes, money comes. And so we got to the point where I was working so much more because I was much younger, right? He was already probably 40 something and I was 20. So at one point it was, I was so aggressive in wanting to grow this machine. I started my own company, and then I bought his company.
Wow.
And so yeah, and then from there it was just keep working. Crazy hours, 7 days a week, just nuts. That wasn't enough. Open up another division of a mechanical company, hire another guy to run that, and not being sometimes you work to escape the other things that you don't like doing or that you're not comfortable with doing. So I wasn't a great office manager by any means. I was great service tech, great installer, but a company manager, as the company was growing much bigger than what I could handle. I should have taken courses, or I should have, got mentors to teach me how to run a business and not work in the business. And so it just, and I just like a bull, just pound through it until, I had a pretty big disaster in 2000, roughly. Some companies went bankrupt that owed me a lot of money. Found out one of my managers was excessively stealing. And called my lawyers, called my accountants, and what do I do? And they said, well, just close that company, declare it bankrupt, and then keep running your other companies, and don't worry about it. And me being the person that I am, I was like, I owe money to people. Right. I can't do this. I can't declare bankrupt. And so I took over that company, and then went full force, working even more. Working even more till it took about 2 years to pay off all that debt. And then after that, I was fortunate. I got approached by a larger company that bought me out. I kept my renovation and construction company, and then I went and worked as an employee for a while, for about 5 years, for a German company. I used to sell their commercial HVAC equipment, and they needed a sales director for Eastern Canada. So I needed a break from the 7 days a week, 36-hour days. And so it was a good transition for me to also give me some time to refocus on what, because you get caught up in this rat race. Sorry if I'm using the wrong terms here, but and so for me, I was moving away from what I really in my heart wanted, because I was chasing what I thought my mind wanted. And for me, and again, it's all about learning, right, over time. And what I've come to realize was the most important thing for me that I wanted was my wife, my kids, my house, and a family life. But I'm always working. I'm always gone, right? Chasing that other opportunity.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's wow, I think I spun off a little bit here.
No, and like I said to every guest, it's your show. It's your show, and there's so much in being allowed to just express oneself without being interrupted. I look for the natural pauses, and I'm finding myself more and more of myself in you the more you talk, and especially when I ask you about creating, you were in fact perpetually creating new businesses, new division, creating. And for me, that's always been, and I don't know, you let me know what you think about, where my mind's at around the creating, and I'm always creating, it was because of survival mode, because of that starting so young, the more I had control over,
yep,
the more comfortable I was. So I needed to have control over as many elements in my life as possible. And if I was able to create more and more opportunity for myself, then I had the illusion of having control of my life and where it was going, if that makes any sense at all. So I was relentless at creating new opportunities. Even when I started my business as a strength and conditioning coach, I took every single client. Yes, I said yes. And this is kind of, we're going to dovetail into your next theme is, learning to say no. And I wasn't able to say no. I just said yes to every flipping thing and everybody and I paid the ultimate price, which is losing myself and my identity. And what you're talking about is not chasing what the heart wants, but chasing what your mind is telling you to do because of that operating system that you talked about when you sent me over your notes of what you want to talk about. So you're an absolutely master creator. Is just sometimes we're not creating the masterpiece that we have in our minds. So speaking of wanting to create that masterpiece, I think you have something on your mind. So go for it, Sylvain, and then I'll ask you your next question.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's being in that survival mode, and until you learn what you're truly wanting, it's especially if you are creative, I guess you're thrown in so many directions that it's hard to then focus. And you're like a squirrel, right? Oh, where's my next nut? Oh, there it is, right? So it's kind of like I think what I've come to realize now, and I just turned 50, is if I would have done, or if I would have been at the point in my life to accept some of the therapy that I've had in the past earlier on, probably would have helped me to be less chasing and more enjoying, the journey. Right. So, but yeah, I mean, like you said, it's sometimes it's in you to be like that, to you. I don't know if it's when you're born with it or not, but it could be transferred through DNA, I guess. But like, if again, I want to refer back to Cindy or some friends of mine, like I have a friend who this guy taught me how to be able to hug another man without it feeling awkward. Right.
Okay. Yeah. I like where you're going. Yeah.
So, and it was weird because this guy was open. Like he could walk in a room and he could hug somebody else's wife. He could hug a man. It was love. It was just open arms, and there was nothing malicious about it, right? But then for me, um, the the environment I grew up in, you're always scanning, and well, if I hug his wife, is he going to think I'm after her? Or if I hug him, is he going to get the wrong signal and think that I'm attracted to him? And so um, it's just weird how your experiences or your DNA, I'm not sure where it all comes from, but how your experiences make you turn into certain things, and then you have to deprogram some of those beliefs that you have, um, or learn to work with them, to be able to move forward if that's what you want, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
for me, that touchy feely is something I've always yearned for and wanted. It just felt uncomfortable.
And that's why I love these chats, because you never know where things are going to go. And so for me, I had to grow into that too as well. And
Mm.
I chased that and I worked on that because I wanted that level and feeling of authenticity and connectedness with people early on. And in a previous relationship, I taught, this person's father to actually hug another man for the first time. It was unheard of. The
Mm.
family were completely miffed at what happened with him. And so, but what we inspire, right? I wanted to inspire that. So if it's without motive, right? So what you
Yeah.
touched on, it's like, oh, there's a motive here, there's an angle here. And I've lived
Mm-hmm.
my whole life like that.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a motive and everybody's got an angle, versus just want to give you a freaking hug, man.
Yeah.
Just want to show you some love. Show you some love. Nobody's
Yeah.
thinking anything else of it. Let's not, make it anything else. So I like that you bring up that example. And so I'm going to bring it into what you were migrating and sharing with us, is now learning to quiet the noise, shutting off where the mind wants to take you versus where you want your heart to pull you
Mm-hmm.
towards more for
Mm-hmm.
that real level of fulfillment, and talking about
Yeah.
that masterpiece in your life, and in figuring out how to work through that and what you truly want. So I'm sure you have a few things to say about that, Sylvain. How'd you manage that?
Um, yeah. Well, I mean, that was that was one of the largest, my probably one of my biggest challenges was to actually figure out what I wanted. And it was one gentleman that I had many sessions with. Um, this guy was a wizard in his craft, and he was able to bring things out of myself, and also make me realize things. One of the very first things, and how how we were saying how people remember certain things and whatnot, but um, I used to have this issue where I always said, well, I know what I want, but my wife Cindy, like she doesn't know what she wants. Like she doesn't, like she doesn't want to become a nurse, or she doesn't want to become a social worker, or she doesn't know what she wants. Like she just goes with the flow, but there's no, you know, what's that? What's the goal? What's the goal? Because I was always that guy. I have to the go. Oh, I'm approaching the goal. I got to put another goal, and I got to put another goal. And then this guy came to me, and after a couple of sessions together, and he's like, you don't remember the very first session we had together? And I'm like, well, not really, no, it's kind of vague. And he's like, he says, you keep bringing back this point on Cindy. And he said, but it's opposite. It's, you don't know what you want, but she absolutely knows what she wants. And I was like, what? Like, and I'm like, how did you come up with this nonsense after 5 sessions? And he's like, you told me in the very first session that she wrote down in her, I don't know what you call it in English, le vox. It was when you graduate school, people write stuff in your
Oh,
books,
your yearbook?
your yearbook. Yeah. So, uh, so uh, he said, what did she write in your yearbook? That's why I told you what she wrote. He says, yeah, but repeat it to me. So I said, well, she said that she wanted to marry Sylvain. She wanted to have 2 kids and wanted to take care of her family.
Wow. Holy
And
shit.
that was powerful. Like, I was like, oh my God, she knows what she wants. I'm confused. And then I was like, okay, so you know what? Now it opened up another layer of the onion to be able to accept some more information, right?
Yeah.
So then he helped me dig through some of my stuff, and then it was kind of and it always came back to, well, I think, and he was like, stop thinking, feel. What do you feel? But that's hard for me because that's a hard subject. So finally we worked through some situations, and I've I've always been very happy helping people. And
Mm-hmm.
so, like, what the reason I had a successful HVAC company was I never went into someone's house, and I didn't realize this at the time. It was more natural. I would go in to help someone, or they call me, I need a new furnace, and the traditional way was people go in and they look at your furnace and they say, okay, well, you have an 80,000 BTU furnace. So an 80,000 BTU furnace is $3,500 installed. Done. Give me the money. I'm done, and I'll walk out. So I started walking in, and then it was more. And again, I learned this from another gentleman, Dennis, who was another wizard in his craft. But he said, you got to go in there wanting to help them, not heat their house, but make their home more comfortable. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. So, but an 80,000 BTU furnace will keep them comfortable. He's like, not necessarily. It might heat it up too quickly. They might get temperature swings. They might get this. Ask him if there's a cold spot in the house. Ask him this, ask him that. So then I started taking courses to become more knowledgeable on airflow and ventilation and air quality. Um,
You get a fan.
don't do that. So yeah. So anyways, it was whew, let me catch my breath here.
This is what On the Cusp is about, my friend. Our intention isn't to make people emotional, but it's to be real about them. And you've provided me with an incredible experience so far. So thank you.
No, you're welcome. It's this has been amazing. It's therapeutic at the same time. So but yeah, so anyways, I went into people's homes now looking at solving issues for them. Then all of a sudden, I went from being myself by myself running a company to having a crew of like 20, and not being able to keep up with work. And it's just because we were trying to take care of problems. And so going back to when I got out of HVAC, sold the companies, and then worked for that German company, I was kind of, I knew mechanical. So I said, oh, this is good for me. And, this is what I know, until my real estate agent, because I used to build custom homes, said, Sly, you'd be a great real estate agent. You know house construction, mechanical, this, that, and you go in there with an open mind and not just try to sell them a beautiful home, but actually be looking at to make sure it's a good home. And so I kind of thought about it, and I said, yeah, I'll give that a try. And now 12 years later, I'm helping people find their homes, and I try to do my best to make sure, because people, it's a huge emotional purchase for them, right? They come in, and most people look at pretty because that's what they know, right? Oh, I want, this, like, you buy a nice car. I want a nice car. I don't want to buy a jalopy. And so they go into the house looking at, and I'm looking at the structure. I'm looking at the bones. I'm looking for things that I think might be a trigger. And they always get a home inspection, but if I can, eliminate a few houses so that they're not spending the $500 or $600 in a row after 3 homes, and the inspection says, you shouldn't buy this home. Now they've just spent that money. So if I can be a prelude to that, save them a bit of money, give them some knowledge, and then all of a sudden they find into the right home, and then they're super happy. Well, then I've done my job, and I'm doing backflips.
Yeah, and that message is so important for me too. I mean, I've always joked around with people and clients, and they just go, "Wow, you really go out of your way." I said, "I live to serve." That'd be just my
Mm.
little coin. I live to serve. I think I fell into a life of servitude, and I always try and teach people and give them an example, and I pay it forward as much as I can every day, as small as it can be. Is really providing value,
Mm.
and it was a double-edged sword though for me, Sylvain, because I touched on it, I think, last episode, where I measured my self-worth by just how much of that I was doing for everybody else. So follow me
Mhm.
down the rabbit hole here, because I'm bringing it around again to you sitting down with yourself and sitting down with a therapist and truly working out what you truly want from
Mhm.
the heart. I know for me, when I went through those exercises, I felt very selfish when I
Mm.
started to make choices and aligning my decisions on a daily basis with what I genuinely wanted as far as happiness, because it meant that I had to say no
Mm.
to other things and other people. And we're
Mhm.
going to finish it off here, and I'm going to let you take off with that piece. Is a quote that I like is, "You don't really know somebody's true colors until you say no to them for the first time."
Mhm. True.
So, was there an element of you feeling selfish when you started to grasp onto what you really wanted and starting to make, your decisions and you align your choices with that?
Yeah, for sure, selfishness, disappointment. Not thinking that I was um, I was saying no. And that I was by saying no, I couldn't help this person, right? So I was
Oh,
disappointed in myself for that.
wow.
Um, but at the same time, I come to learn that um, when you say no, sometimes it's for your own health, because some people will just consume so much energy from you. And my wife always says that with my patients. They're not patients, they're clients. Um, my wife says that all the time. She's like, "You're so patient with your clients," and it's because I feel, if I was in their shoes, and I've been in their shoes, when I'm learning something and somebody is patient with me, then it makes the learning experience a lot better. But to say no, I've had a few instances, and it was very hard, but it was for my own well-being. And then I actually apologized. So just a quick scenario of one here, but um, this person calls me, super nice guy on the phone, amazing. They're in a divorce. He's trying to do everything to help his wife. His wife, is he says, that is got some mental issues, and she's not sound and whatnot. And he sounds genuine on the phone. He sounds amazing, and I'm like, no, you know what, I'd love to help you guys move through this, and so you can each, grow, start your own paths. And um so I'm trying to reach the wife to make, and then I'm having a hard time. And then finally she reaches out. She says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've just been dealing with a lot." And so we set up a meeting, me and her, one on one. And I get there, and she seems very normal to me, like, just, and so I'm talking to her, and then I could see she's a little bit afraid. I'm a fairly big guy, and she's afraid, and I'm trying to be more relaxed, trying, because I'm sensing that from her. And then I said, "Well, would you prefer if I, I don't know, sit further away from you?" And all, she's like, "No, no, it's okay. It's fine, it's fine." And then all of a sudden, boom, the front door opens, and he comes in,
Mm.
and he's not supposed to be there. And right away, now I just see her, like, just fully, boom, she locks up, and she's all tense. You know, "Did she sign the papers yet?" And I'm like, we're just going through some stuff. I'm explaining stuff to her, and he starts swearing. He starts calling her names, and it's just, he's going off, like losing his mind. And I'm like, "Well, where's the sweet guy I was talking to that says he's trying
Mm.
to help her out?"
Mm-hmm.
And so I right away, I kind of got my back up, and I don't like seeing a woman being attacked, right? And it just, so I now I'm in a position that I'm actually afraid for myself of my reaction. And I just looked at him and I said, I said, look, this is a meeting between me and her. I'd ask you if you could leave. This is my house. You're not telling me what to do. And then he was getting more aggressive. And then I just looked at her, and then I looked at him, and I said, guys, I'm sorry. I cannot work in this environment. I have to pull myself out of this. And I looked at her and I said, I would really love to work for you. I said, I cannot work for him. And then I asked her, I said, do you want me to call the police before I leave and stay here until the police come? And then he said, you don't need to do that. I'm going to leave. And then I left. He left. I left. And then next thing you know, he calls me and then he just lashes out at me. From the first time we spoke, which I thought was a nice man trying to, the true colors came out. But that was probably one of the first times I said no, whereas in the past, I would have absorbed it. I would have pushed myself to go through it because I thought I needed it to survive.
Right.
Whereas now I've learned it's okay to pull yourself away from situations that are not good for you.
Everything you just said, I call self-care. It's finally the moment you realize that you're worth it, that you don't need to swallow the toxicity of other people because of your own demons or your own fears and insecurities around whether it's, well, I'm saying no, I'm rejecting that person. I'm saying no, but before I always said yes because it was that survival mode thing that is basically the anchor to this show that we're having together, And then you said, it's like so in a sense, Sylvain, is you decided to pick up one of your tools in your toolbox finally and apply it in that moment by going, I'm not climbing down in that mud pit. That person, you're getting myself dirty. I'm going to stay above it. And so probably liberating. Did that feel, you probably were like a bittersweet scenario, but liberating.
Yeah.
And did that send you on a path to be able to say no more comfortably, more often to situations that weren't healthy for you?
It did. And it wasn't even sometimes as hard of a situation as that. It was just a situation that I felt, the expectations are you're asking too much of me, and I'm not willing to give that much of myself to you, and so I have to decline your offer and find something that is more in line with what I'm aligning myself with.
Perfect. That just nails it right on the head around aligning your choices and your decisions in a moment with what you truly want, right? And oftentimes they're not. At least for me, the wants were never really material or concrete, tangible things. In the beginning, yes, you fight hard to have the same things that everybody else has. And I remember, being in high school, so we're for Laurier, and everybody was wearing Polo Ralph Lauren at the time. That was the thing, Polo Ralph Lauren, and then the navy blue corduroy tapered with the pins there. Sorry,
the pins. Oh my God,
right?
Yeah.
With your Sperry topsiders looking real cool, but I didn't have any of that. There was no money. There was no money for those kinds of garments. So, back to working at Chimo Hotel, I finally had the money. I got on the bus, went to Rideau Center, went to Ralph Lauren, bought myself a $95 sweater. It was kind of, well, it was a red maroon color with a nice royal blue horse guy, and I was like on cloud nine. I hermetically sealed like that shirt every night, like Michael Jackson in a hyperbaric chamber, because it was like, I can't have anything happen to this sweater because I don't have the money to replace it. So anyway, all that being said, I put so much emphasis on the material and acquiring and thinking that those are the things that are going to make me happy. And then realizing with age, we'll get into that. So I'm 49, I'll be 50 in the spring. So, O'Brien's on here. He just had his 50th too as well. So we're all hitting that milestone, right? And yeah, it's a big deal. But I think what comes with age is you really start to tighten things up a little bit, and who you spend your time with, who you give your time to, who you say yes to, right? So everything you just said, and it's nice that, you arrived, at a certain point in your life to appreciate those gifts you give to yourself. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
You're gifting yourself. You've done the work. Everybody knows. Your family knows you're there for them. Your friends know you're there for them. That's never in question, right? But are you there for yourself, right? And I've always had to work through that one as well. So
that's a good point.
You're really making this engagement of a tremendous value for me and hopefully for the viewers too. So one of the things you talk about, and we've been kind of layering all the way, but I guess maybe being more specific about it, it's like what you shot over to me was the challenges in having to reprogram yourself to accept those new wants, right? So you've done the work, sat down, you figured it out. Okay. And the biggest barrier to achieving this is when your operating system, again, is fully wired to survive at all costs. So what kind of things did you do, or you kind of put in place or practice, or new muscle that you flexed in order to break through those barriers and continue on the path of fulfilling your new wants?
Yeah, again, that's a continuous cycle that is I'm always working on. The engine has been built, and so I just have to constantly remind myself, that I'm worthy. I'm looking for, or I not looking. I'm accepting of what point I'm at now. So all my decisions that led up to this is now I have to accept it, and I think by accepting it, it kind of releases a little bit of that, the fears of wanting more, or the clutter of wanting to buy stuff, or to constantly be searching for something new, opposed to just being here right now, enjoying what we're doing right now, and not living in the, okay, well, what's the next session that we're going to talk about? What's and although my brain is, because I always tend to go back and want to figure out my future before it's even happened. It's good yourself. So it's just about being here right now, and so by constantly trying to bring myself here, back in the moment, it kind of it lowers the volume of the noise, right? And so it's there in the background, but it's not as annoying and it's not overpowering. Now, when I get into moments of when I have a lot of downtime, then the volume starts to increase. Right. And so, like in the last couple of years, a good friend of mine, Rob, kind of invited me. He said, "Hey, you should get back into some cycling, And so, because I used to do things like scuba diving. I used to do scuba diving because when you're down at the bottom, you're focused on breathing, you're focused on surviving, and so everything else doesn't matter. You're in that moment, breathing and exploring. And so, but you can't scuba dive all the time unless you do the winter stuff and all that. But I don't like the cold, as you can see. I'm somewhere a little bit warmer. But now, so cycling for me has a little bit done that, and exercise. It's I've gotten out of exercise. I was gaining a pile of weight, getting unhealthy, and I figured, okay, you know what? Nope, can't let this happen. And but cycling for me has really also helped me focus, because you're aware of your environment. You're watching vehicles to make sure that you're safe, and then the exercise, you're just releasing so many positive things out of your body, and I'm sure you can elaborate on what's being released because you're an expert in that. But
good stuff. All good stuff.
All good stuff. Yeah. So then you come out of there and you're energized, but you're not energized like a squirrel. You can actually focus. You can focus and say, okay, man, like today, this is what I'm gonna do. Right. So so it's for me, that's how I kind of deal with it, and it's difficult. There's days like this week. Last week I did a 75-mile bike ride, and
wow,
and I'm not used to the heat in Arizona, and I didn't bring enough liquids, didn't bring enough food. So I depleted myself. I crashed. I just not physically crashed, not like bicycle crash, but I got to a point I couldn't cycle. My legs were cramping up, and so I pulled over. I had to call my wife to come and rescue me. She drove down with the truck and picked me up. And it's been about a week, and I'm still recovering from that. But I feel, because I haven't been cycling or doing exercise, I feel my mind is starting to want to come back to old habits. So I'm always conscious of that, right? So you can read, you can do other things that will help you keep your mind occupied, I guess, or busy. Yeah, that's what I do for me.
Well, that tees up what I want to compliment with very well, because as you know, my life, being fitness, I started at a young age to lift weights, was skinny, whatever. I wanted to change that, but the collateral benefit to working out was also bleeding the lines, right? It's like I'd have to bleed the lines because it was too busy. And you mentioned something that I went in my head. I'm like, fudge, like absolutely. Me with downtime, idle hands are the devil's tools, as they say. I'm the worst, man. If I've got downtime, or I lost a job or something, you're laid off and you've got that time, that's when I become my worst enemy. That's when things become very difficult and dark for me. And you touched on it about, you want to circumvent it and you want to stay ahead of it, right? You're more proactive as you age and you learn to use those tools in your toolbox, and you go, there it is on the horizon, and you pick cycling. Cycling is absolutely an incredible sport because of the amount of focus that you have, right? And it takes completely your mind off of all that peripheral stuff that vibrates at a high frequency. So once you do bleed the lines and you're at a more relaxed state, I find your ability to manage, or even your level of creativity, or the next decisions are actually the right decisions, versus, you said it, you're not trying to be a squirrel. I love that analogy, because that's what's going on inside my head, man.
Yep.
With that downtime. And you use fitness and other means in order to be able to manage that. And that's really what life is, right? I would say life is hard labor. It's hard labor. There's no two ways about it, right? And how do we navigate those waters, and how do we nudge that river into the direction of what we truly want? And that's by self-care, putting yourself first and not feeling selfish about it, getting over the guilt that keeps us from getting to that better version of ourselves. And I want to come back to, to your wife, Cindy. And I love the story about the yearbook. And when she wrote, you're talking your therapy, you said, what are you talking about, man? Like, you're turning my world upside down. And that really stuck with me as we were talking. And that really is significant, because she is truly a success. She is truly achieved what she set out to do. And I'm sure if she was on the show as a guest and complimenting this, I'm sure a lot of her choices and decisions, and even when she would want to be pulled in another direction, she had goal clarity. Goal clarity. And I always struggled with that. I thought I convinced myself that I had good goal clarity, but I filled my life with distractions. And going back to, I felt very much like the imposter for most of my life, trying to put on a happy face for everybody and being what everybody wants me to be, expects me to be, afraid of saying no and the rejection and everything else. So that story is, about Cindy, is absolutely something that's going to stick with me, like absolutely forever, because I remember yearbooks. I remember pals in high school knowing what they wanted to do in grade 10, and they went on to do it. And I'm like, how the fuck do you do that? Like, how does that work? One, I have no idea really who I am. Two, I'm surviving. I'm just trying to get through today. Never mind going on tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then I like just way too many things. I have
Yeah.
way too many interests that, committing myself to one thing. And I think perhaps that was something that was going on in your life and why you were doing so many different things, because you did have so many different interests. And the interest was also a means in order for you to, to make money and provide and take care of that, what we call financial insecurity, right?
Yep.
There's people who have food insecurity, right?
Yep.
That ties into it. So, she said some really awesome stuff, man. So, we talk about, providing and and I want to open it up to questions too at the end. And hopefully we do get some. That's the idea, right? Is, people may just sit and watch or post a comment, and those are great. But if somebody, has even the courage to go, hey, yeah, like, Sylvain said something about this and I'm kind of there myself. And yeah, hopefully we get some questions. So, we always want to provide people with takeaways, right? And, you provided 2 takeaways for me, which is great. Do you remember them, or do you want me to read it to you?
Yeah, read them to me, because unfortunately I don't remember them.
No, that's here. I'm just the host. I'm here to traffic control. So the first one was: find your path sooner than later. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That was your first takeaway.
Yeah, I think for me, and that's what I've tried to instill in people around me, my kids, friends, going through hard times and stuff, is and even me being there. Like, I have a lot of friends that will turn to me because I've had a lot of different life experiences, and I try to make everybody feel that help, like, don't be afraid to ask for help. We don't know it all. You'll never know it all. And you don't know what you don't know until you don't know what you don't know. And so if I can give you a tidbit, because a lot of times I've been to so many seminars and read books and listened to tapes, and I dated myself there, tapes. Yeah. So, but and back then, I would maybe get 10% of, listen to it for an hour, get 10%. Now I feel, maybe it's maturity, I'm not sure, but I can go into a session and I can pull out like 30%, 40%, 50% of information that is useful to me, and then start applying it. And then it hopefully will help me not make further mistakes in the path that I'm trying to lead myself down. Right. So the sooner you can be open to accepting help, I think is the better for you, if that's the path you want to take.
And there it is, Sylvain. It's perfect, right? It's being open and the willingness to accept the help, right? And that's what I mean about we trip over ourselves. The only thing that gets in the way of you is you. Pride is an incredible crippler. Been there many, many times. You talk about the help thing. So, question for you is, only because I'm 100% aligned with what you're sharing with us today, is okay, so did you find you used that example with that lady, that very
Hang
tenuous?
on a second. There's some background noise. Hang on.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
So you highlighted that scenario with that guy who was on the phone and he met with the lady and it was very tenuous, and then you said,
yes.
hey, right, okay, so, and that was an instant where you wanted to help. Out of the probably 1,000,005 that you've done in your life of servitude, right, is because of my own difficulty in my life in asking for help and putting up my hand, I always inserted myself quickly and willingly in the path of people who I could see needed the help but weren't able to ask for the help, that they were having struggle, in order to just make that exercise easier for them. Do you think that do you connect with that? Did you find yourself doing that?
Full connection. Yeah. And, I think Tim Allen, from Tim the Toolman Taylor, right? He's Mr. Fix It. And I think as men, we are brought up to try to fix everything. And they say that women are more there and they're more receptive to listening and learning, whereas we jump in and we try to fix. And I don't know if that's true or not, and I haven't read up on it. I don't know, but for myself, yes, 100%. I'm always trying to like something happens, and I think that's given me a little bit of success as well, because I can turn around and fix issues for clients very quickly. But sometimes I stick my nose where I shouldn't, especially with my kids, trying to protect them, and trying to be, no, I'm your dad. That's what I'm here to do. I'm going to fix it for you. And then, get a phone call. Dad, my car won't start. Okay, don't worry. I've got the tow truck on the other line. I've got the mechanic's garage. He's waiting for you, and just trying to do everything. And then sometimes I kind of think back and I say, oh man, I should have let them kind of figure it out a little bit, so that way when I'm no longer here, I'll know how to do it. Now, I think I entrust in myself that I've taught them well, that they call me because they know I'm going to help them, but not because they need me to help them. Right. So, but yeah, I'm like you said, I'm just like you. It's I've jumped into scenarios where I had no business being there, and but just
so. It's almost like you're reading my mind, Sly. It's the question that I had to follow up was a random one. Have you ever been burned in the process of trying to help you?
Too many times.
Yeah.
Too many times.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that, because that tends to be the other part of the equation for people who are fixers and people who want to help. And I've been there many times, and I had a conversation on Friday with a colleague just about that. A young girl, she's phenomenal, very, 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 like, she's going to go places. And we were talking about that, and it came up, and she goes, yeah, I want to help and I want to fix things. And I looked at her and I said, did you ever see the movie Murder on the Orient Express? And it's got the all-star cast, Michelle Pfeiffer, Johnny Depp, and Kenneth Branagh. I'm a big fan of the English actors. I think they got some good schooling. And his name was Hercule Poirier, for you French people. And he was leaving because he was in Israel solving the first opening crime. And then he's waiting for his train. And then he fixes the young soldier's tie. And the soldier was like not aware that his tie was that. He goes, I'm plagued with seeing the world and how it should be, were his words. And I remember sitting on a couch, and then I got emotional. I felt myself welling up with tears, because that has always been, he nailed it. I'm like, I'm plagued with seeing the world as it should be. So I'm always looking to try and find the harmony for people in fixing. And there's been times in my life where I've been burned really bad, because either they reached out, they wanted it, and I've put my time and effort and emotion into it, just to be kind of pushed away, rejected, and now I'm the problem, or just completely pushed away. So anyway, sorry, my little tangent, because the things that you're bringing up are very emotional for me too, Sylvain. And you provide me the platform to be able to reciprocate to some of the things you're saying. Your other.
Can I interrupt real quick, Steph?
Yeah, you're nice. It's your show.
Yeah, no, one thing I do remember, and again, like, we've lost touch. Like, we would reconnect probably about every 10 years, because I think we met when we were about 20.
Yep.
Right. And then again, we met at about 30. And then I reached out to you one time. I was in Vancouver, and I think I said, hey, I'm in Vancouver for a day, and you were busy. And I was like, no worries, we'll reconnect. But so we would touch bases, like on every decade kind of thing. And again, almost now. Right. So, but the thing that kept me wanting to stay in touch with you for 30 years. I remember meeting you at this Mustang Club thing, and you were always giving to people, giving of yourself. Like, you were, and back then you were always been into fitness, but like you were just always there, elevating. You're constantly elevating people, right? And so that attracted me to say, this is a good human being. And we don't hang out. You're in BC. I'm across the country.
You got the host doing it now too. Good. It's good.
But yeah, so anyway, so I'm happy I met you back then. I'm happy that you're still in my life, and that this is amazing what you're doing now. This is again you're giving now to the world. You used to be able to touch people on a one-on-one and in little circles, and now you're reaching out to the world. So I congratulate you on that, buddy. That's amazing.
That means a lot, Sylvain. This should just say it all. I mean, back to motives.
Yeah.
Right. My motives in my life and the people in my life are always to help. We're always to pay it forward, pull somebody up,
yep.
Provide them with either the tools or a kind word or even, the energy that, or an example. We talked about it in the green room before going live, and where I worked in emergency group home part-time with adolescent boys and girls that were pulled from very dire scenarios at home. And I did that as an opportunity to be able to give back. And I love to cook. So dinner time was always really fun. The 6-7 kids in the house, give them all a task to do, create something together we could sit down to and enjoy and have good conversation. We'd take them to the gym, the YMCA, inspire them. And then, because this is a perfect segue. There was a 17-year-old girl. She was relatively new to the home, and I was always the guy joking, the clown, and even in high school. And you look at the Robin Williams and the people in the life. Well, we're hiding our pain. That's exactly what it was. Yeah. So we're sitting down for dinner, and we'll call her Megan. And Megan is, I could see her giving me this discerning look, the stink eye, like the whole time, and I could just feel it. And I said, yeah, when she's ready to have at it, she'll let me know. She'll launch the missile. And sure enough, she did at this dinner table. And she says, it's easy for you to sit there and to be happy and everything's great and everything, rosy in your life, kind of sort of that thing, just kind of passing judgment on, thinking she knows what my story or the narrative is. And I went, yeah. I said, well, okay. So, let's talk about that. So I decided to pull 2 of probably the best stories of my childhood off the shelf. And I started to share that with these young ladies. And it got real fast. I broke down. I was crying as I was telling the stories. And there wasn't a dry eye at the table. But what was important in that moment was to show that I have shit, that I've been through stuff, that I am real, and I'm not here providing you guys with an imposter of a false experience that I'm here in this house. It's temporary for me. I get to go home, but you guys are stuck with the lives that you have. And it ties into what I want to do with this show. In that moment, it's a community where people then all of a sudden go, oh, okay, here's a real person in his, late 20s, 30s. Anyway, wow. So that's a perfect segue into your next thing that you would want to leave people with is surround yourself with people who have the same, DNA, if you will, and basically like a healthy appetite for positivity and everything we just talked about. So this is yours. What does that community network and people look like for you, and what does it mean and do for you?
Yeah, it's for me, it stems from like a fear of back in the day, moving around so much and having a lot of acquaintances, but not having a lot of friends. So to then all of a sudden trying to be friends with everybody and anybody, because I thought the more friends I had, the more love I would feel. And again, over time, right? Over time, learning and getting burned by people who are there for a reason, not there for the right reason. So then you start to be able to say, okay, we don't need. I don't need necessarily need like I'll stay an acquaintance with this person, but we don't necessarily need to hang out. And so you start drawing your circle, and unfortunately, I don't want to say this to make it sound like friends are tools, but it's you've got certain friends that you can keep close to the heart,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that those friends are going to be the friends you can count on, um, laughing, crying, whatever's the reason. Um, Vice versa, you're there for them, they're there for you, and then you all of a sudden you realize, I don't really need that many friends, and not that I don't want to be friends with people. It's just if I can provide for you something that's of value, and you can reciprocate that, or even if you're just wanting to learn from it or accept some of it, I don't know, but if you're there to constantly, because we only like as I'm aging, I feel like I have I'm like a lithium battery, right? And I've got a certain amount of energy that I can give, but when you get to a certain point where you're feeling like Jesus, like there's just so many light bulbs on, and I can't light another light bulb. I just can't. I want to. I'd love to, but I can't. It's not there. So so being able to pull back and kind of saying, these are good people that I'm surrounding myself with. Um, we enjoy doing similar activities, or we enjoy similar conversation. Um, then that's all I feel I need. Right?
I'm going to steal your analogy of the lithium battery and the light bulbs. I think it's brilliant. Ha ha, brilliant. See that light bulbs? Don't mind me. Just no pun intended with the light bulb thing. Is really lithium batteries over time, right? What I think you're driving at is lithium batteries over time don't charge up as fully
Yep.
or as quickly.
Yep.
And when you were coloring that image for me, I was like, yeah, that's exactly how it is. Exactly right. And I think you started to learn which light bulbs you want to, tie a filament to.
Yeah.
And and it made me think about, the guy in the circus who's spinning all these plates on sticks, right?
Yeah.
And he's running real quick and frantically to keep the plate from spinning, and you see it wobbling and slowing down, and eventually, some of those plates come tumbling. And I've had a lot of plates crash on me. And to your light bulb analogy is absolutely perfect and spot on. That's really how I feel about the relationships that I have in my life. They have to cut both ways. They have to be authentic. Sometimes it's just a matter of, you said, you don't look as tools. I mean, I know how you're saying it. They're that tool in the toolbox that you have 100% confidence in. And that's what I look for in my relationship by far. Not perfection, because we're talking about the human condition. We're imperfect. Some days are better than others. We make our mistakes, but it's those friends who identify that you are a human being first, and they love you for that and all that comes with it, right?
Yeah.
Not versus it being, I'm going to be friends with Sylvain because he has this nice cottage in the Outaouais and a great boat, and I'm just going to keep one toe in that relationship. So when it's cottage time, I'm going to have that in to get invited. You know where I'm going with that. And I've had a lot of those people in my life too. It's what can I benefit and gain from you as a transaction friend versus I'm there no matter what.
Yeah.
No matter what. And you said some very kind words to me earlier, and about, even though every decade it seems that we kind of touch base. But speaking of the friendship part, there's no mistaking when it feels good.
Yeah.
You don't have to try. There's no real effort to it. It's just there, and it is, and yeah, it's not contrived. So those are some great things to have people to think about leaving with. I mean, oh my God, I'm going to be thinking about this for the next few days. So I'm going to just open it up. I don't know really who's online. I mean, I know it just shows numbers, but this is getting streamed to 3 different places. It doesn't really show for us how many people are truly viewing it. So if there's any questions out there for anybody, listen, that's part of the show too. If you have something, throw it up there on the screen. We'll share it. We can toss it around. And we'll see what comes up. And then if not, then we'll look to wrap this up. But while people may be thinking about their questions, I did throw it out there. I would love to have a show. So next week's show is with an ex-colleague of mine, Mickey Mickelson. So he's a publicist, a very successful publicist. He deals with some pretty high-level authors. So that'll be an interesting show. But the show after that, I would love, in a time that works for everybody, to have yourself, Roger, O'Brien, and Marco on, and to have a group type chat around accountability and leadership. Those are my 2 very favorite themes. I'm sure us men will have a lot to say about that. Now, you said something too that is so true around, well, men just want to fix it. I'm not sure if there's science or anything behind it. I'm a big audiobook guy. Here's a book if you're bored. It's the book is titled "Hard Times Create Strong Men." Okay. And it ties into everything we shared today on the show, but it talks about the roles that men are, let's say, faced with, or just by default given, and going back thousands of years of programming or operating systems. And it's very much really that what you said is we are designed and wired to fix things. In the book, the author, chats about guys will be sitting on the couch watching a football game, but they're inside their head fixing shit. Right? That's what, they may be, you're just glued to the screen. No, we're inside our heads fixing shit. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And or if your spouse, starts to talk to you, the author, it really made me go to school and think, man, on some of the stuff I thought I had down, but no way. I was like, I got it all wrong, which is fine. I have to be wrong because, they say honesty is the catalyst for growth. He said, when women share some of their woes or their challenges or problems, if you will, guys are ready to jump in and start trying to, you should do this and you should do that. And, we're fixers. Yeah. But the author says, it's not what they want. It's not what they're looking for.
That's right. Yeah.
They don't want you to fix it for them. They're looking to emote. They want to emote and share and you to listen, not to jump in and start to fix. Now, I'm not painting everything with the same brush, but sometimes, where they're looking to be fixed. But anyway, so no questions I see. That's fine because, people are probably just like, stepping away from it. But you made everything that On the Cusp is truly intending to do, which is exactly this. People being okay with being human and being vulnerable and sharing their stories, and nobody's judging and nobody should, and nobody has the right to, because we all have stuff. And Sylvain, thank you for your time. Thank you, Steph. And we'll do it again soon. So this is my mom. She's providing a comment. So if you ever see that name, that's my mom. So yes, Mom, that's the idea. Sincere, genuine, and just real people talking real shit. Sylvain, you're a gem of a human being, my friend. Thank you for being in my life, and thank you for just being on this planet, man.
Thanks, Steph. I appreciate it, and we'll do it again.
Pleasure for sure. Cheers. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Bye. Bye.